We hope you enjoy this episode of the Modern Arizona podcast. But first, an important message for our listeners.
Hello, this is Billie Tarascio, owner of Modern Law. We're a family law firm in Phoenix, Arizona, with offices throughout the state. We have attorneys who can help you with every aspect of your family law case. We also have a legal clinic run by students for those of you who need budget-friendly resources, and we have lawyers who've been practicing for more than 20 years. Collectively, Modern Law has more than 200 years of legal experience. So when you hire Modern Law, you're not just getting an attorney, you're getting a team. If you live in Arizona and need representation, call us today. That's 480-649-2905 or visit us at mymodernlaw.com. Hello and welcome to the Modern Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Billie Tarascio, joined today by Derek Wittman. Derek is a licensed therapist who works on all sorts of interesting topics, including ethical non-monogamy, helping teens settle into divorced parents, and also drug and alcohol counseling. And you formed Sage?
Yes, so Sage in Time, it's taken me a long time to get here, but it's my own solo private practice. And I've actually been working with a consultant who, older fella, fantastic, said, you have a voice for radio, but, radio's dead. So he said, how about a podcast? So I've got my own podcast, Sage in Time, the podcast, but I absolutely am fulfilled with what I get to do. I get to do this every day.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I was interested in talking to you is because I recently recorded a podcast with Tawny Browning, who has done a lot of work within polygamist cults. And she has been in the show, what is it? It's A&E's Escaping Polygamy and Secrets of Polygamy. And so we were talking about polygamy and generally speaking, and the idea that, we here in Arizona are generally like a hands-off, live and let live kind of culture where if consenting adults want to do something, you go ahead and do it. But she said that she had never talked to someone who had been in a polygamist cult who had not experienced abuse. And
I imagine that's true.
So then you popped in and you are a therapist and you work with these couples who do ethical non-monogamy, which is similar but different. And I just really wanted to get you on to chat about that and explore that topic.
Okay. What would you like to know, or your listeners too?
Well, do you find with, people who are polyamorous, that's essentially a different version of polygamy. Do you find the same types of power imbalances and abuse and coercion?
So I have not experienced that in any of my work, but there does in some pockets tend to be a lot of unreported abuse. Absolutely. But I think that there's a lot of unreported abuse even in monogamous couples, married or otherwise.
Sure.
A lot of unreported for various reasons.
So what are the differences and similarities between people who live in a polygamist cult versus couples who are maybe not in a cult? And I don't even know, should I call them couples or just people who are practicing polyamory?
People, sure. So polygamous cults are not my area of expertise. I'd rather not speak about that. In fact, my standard disclaimer on anything is, this is purely for educational purposes. This is not therapy. These are just my own experiences. So, but for the people that I've known in polyamory, some have been full-out swingers, strictly couples who engage with other couples or multiple other couples for sex. Generally no outside relationship other than that. More of an exploration kind of, keep the novelty going kind of thing sometimes. But there are others who may find that, my partner isn't meeting all my needs. And I'm sure you hear that a lot as an attorney. My partner's not meeting my needs. Sometimes sexually, there's a desire discrepancy. one partner or the other would prefer more frequent sex, different types of sex, different types of play around sex. But then, okay, well, if my partner likes baseball and I'm not really a baseball fan, I'm not comparing sex to baseball because that's happened since we're like in high school, right? But I have no problem with my partner, my wife, going to a baseball game with a friend. Do I know who the friend is? In our marriage, yes, I do. But in other marriages, you know what? Some people don't want to know. And that has, what makes it ethical is all the parties are in the know. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing somebody with a silent, hidden partner at home. Mm-hmm. I'm also not seeing somebody who's with my partner unaware that I'm seeing them. Mm-hmm. For the parties that practice polyamory or ethical non-monogamy. And the two are not the same term.
They're not the same?
No. So ethical non-monogamy could include swinging, could include an open relationship that's asexual. It could include different types of friendships that are a little closer than your average friend. There might be romantic feelings, but not necessarily a sexual component. All of this, just like we have genders of, uncountable numbers, within the folks that understand that even better than I do, we also have different types of ethical non-monogamy that are also countless.
It's an interesting way of looking at it because, every relationship is different and boundaries within relationships are different. Mm-hmm. But generally, when you have a couple that is having relationships that are outside of the core relationship, does that destabilize the relationship?
That's not been my finding, and that's not been the research's finding.
Tell me about the research.
Okay. So the research shows that a lot of times there's better communication in a non-monogamous couple. And I say couple, there might be other parties involved, but they might just be the primary couple for a moment. Mm-hmm. But there's better communication. They know this is what my partner's good with. This is what my partner's not good with. Different arrangements. I would rather you don't engage in sexual relationship, but just engage in play, engage in friendship, dates, go out to dinner, what have you. It could be fine. There tends to be a lot more trust in those relationships than in marital relationships or in generally monogamous relationships.
So in the people who have come to see me, and I don't have a ton of them, so we've had some clients that were in polyamorous relationships, and then I've had divorced clients whose husbands insisted on, and that's how they felt, that they insisted on, engaging in this lifestyle, and they kind of went along with it, but they were never ever comfortable with it, and it definitely ended up breaking them. How do these couples get on the same page? Because it is so countercultural.
It's been countercultural since we landed in Plymouth, right? 400 years ago.
Well, wait, so, men have been happily cheating forever, right? That's not countercultural.
But as far as the United States goes, this came over with the Puritans.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So absolutely, we can go back to the beginning of time. But for the purpose of Western society, the U.S., Canada, Mexico, we're talking specifically about this has been happening. For some folks, it works great. But you're talking about a coercion aspect of this.
Right.
Against my will. Mm-hmm. In 2024, we talk consent is huge.
It is huge.
You've seen the videos, you've seen the trainings. We know the comparison of would you like some tea?
It's such a very
cute video. It really is. It really is. What would you like in your tea? How much would you like? Mm-hmm. No tea today? That's fine. So, we understand we can always change our mind. We can always try something new. I think I'll have the Earl Grey today. Okay. Didn't care for it. Whatever. But coercion is huge. There's coercion in any type of activity within two people. It could be.
Right.
What do you and your partner want to do for vacation?
Right.
One of you decides to, get a little louder. I don't want to go, but okay, I'll go. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Coercion.
So do you mostly work with the couple that is kind of working through this, or one individual?
Yes, all of the above. I have worked with couples that some of them have been completely on board. We're both a part of this. I've worked with individuals who would say, I'm solo poly, which means that my partner is choosing to be monogamous with me, but is open to the idea of me having another partner or partners, as long as everybody's either in the know or not in the know, depending on what the negotiated agreement is.
Okay.
And people write up these contracts. I mean, they're not like witnessed or notarized.
Sure.
It could be, but they write them up and they're like, this is how we're going to live.
Wow. Okay. All right. And so are there different rates of success depending on that arrangement? Like, are the solo polys more likely to blow up?
I'm going to say no. I mean, it's not like everybody comes in and says, this is what I want to work on. They may want to work on employment anxiety or parenting their teen, because I do that too. But they may say, oh, by the way, I'm non-monogamous.
Okay, so this is not a reason that people are coming to see you for therapy.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
This is more of a by the way.
Got it.
This is who I am.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. How did you find yourself in this niche?
I've had clients that come to me and they'll say, so I'm exploring this thing. And this might be, 7th, 8th, 10th visit, therapy visit. And so, I've got some anxiety about this. So, okay, at the time, I'll say, you know what, this is not my area of expertise. I'm going to do homework. I was actually talking with a friend of mine earlier, and we talked about attorneys, and we're like, the big firms on TV, they've always got this law library. They're going to, look up case law and precedent, things like that. I do my homework. It is not my client's job to educate me about the things that are important to them. I just have to know that this thing is important to them.
Okay.
Or not.
So your background is in project management. How did you find yourself as a therapist?
If you can believe it, I got bored. Back in the, I'm trying to think, late 90s to 2013, I was in project management. Distribution centers. The buzzword about 4 years ago was supply chain. We can't get our stuff. Supply chain. Nobody heard of the word supply chain before except the people in the field.
Sure.
So, I was, time studies, rates of productivity, designing workspaces, $10-15 million was not unheard of for me.
Wow.
3, 4, 5 month long projects. But I got bored, if you can believe it. I came home one day from work. My wife, 2008, asked me, so how's work today? It's fine. What'd you do? And I can't tell her that anymore, what I did as a therapist. But what did you do? And I said, I picked out paint. I was designing a break room, a lounge, employee lounge. And she's like, this sounds exciting. Because we're sarcastic with each other. And shortly after that, I said, people keep coming to me for advice. I don't get it. But they're asking me, and they tell me I've got a level head, and I'm balanced, and I don't let crap bother me like they do. So I said, how do you feel about it? She said, think about it, do some research, find a program. And I spent a year doing that and started grad school while working full-time, still in project management, in 2009.
Got it. Okay. Another one of your specialties is raising teens well in the midst of divorce or separation. That almost feels like an impossibility. So tell me about that.
It sounds more impossible than it is because you're working with the parents, you're seeing their level of animosity, their parental alienation between them. They hate each other sometimes. And I know that. I hear about that too. But they want better for their kid. You know, and teens will talk to me. They will talk to an adult who's not their parent. I think, if I recall one of your reels, you mentioned having kids yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You've got kids around that age. So you can tell them X, Y, Z, and they'll say, you're a liar, you're an idiot.
Right.
But if a coach, music teacher, whatever they're really into, role model says the same thing, that person's a genius.
They just don't hear us, you know.
No.
And they're biologically programmed to not hear us, to want to leave, you know. So I try not to take it personal, and I try to just build that village of other trusted adults who are around them.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's like the best I can do. And then, you know, we're also in a day and age of parenting where like relationships between teens and their parents is not like when I was a kid. We're so much more aligned and attuned to our kids. And the thing that like baffles my mind is like the outcomes for teens and Gen Z is not better.
No. It's almost like what we do doesn't matter.
Is that it? Is it because of our incredibly attuned, supportive parenting that kids are anxious and depressed, or what is going on?
Well, I will say that we do tend to get a little over-involved in our kids now compared to back. I'm not gonna ask you how old you are, what generation, but when I was a kid, Gen X, I had two working parents, one of the first generations of having two working parents outside the home. You know, there's a list of things to do when you get home. You got to do those things, your homework, cook dinner, things that we call it CPS here. I think I've seen some of your followers call it DFS, Department of Family Services. Nobody called for us, but nowadays, to the point where we don't let our kids fail and struggle.
No.
And then they go to work, go to school, and they fail and struggle, and they don't know why.
Right.
And parents oftentimes don't know how to handle that.
Right.
Are the parents putting the weight of the academics, the sports performances, all that stuff on the kids, or are they getting it from their peers or these things, social media?
Right.
So, you know, I'm not saying that healthy parenting doesn't matter. It does. I don't think it determines the success as much as it does, hey, I have a resource later when I need one.
So I've been spending a lot of time on this topic because, Gilbert, where I'm from, has had this Gilbert Goons issue where this gang of well-off teens kind of spontaneously formed and went around brutalizing strangers. And it ended up with one kid getting murdered. And then, and then we parents, you know, and the community, it's a lovely, lovely, wonderful community of affluent, invested parents. And so I really have spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, what are the conditions that allow this? And then there's more and more research coming out saying that, you know, kids right now, teens who have come up, young adults, are struggling. They're not in good shape. They have not been set up for success for adulthood. And at the same time, we, I'm an elder millennial parent. We feel like we've done the best job, right? We don't yell.
We've all done the best job.
We don't ground. Like, we're so supportive. And like, are we really doing the best job? I'm having a little bit of a crisis to understand, like, what is happening. And, you know, we're not in this alone. We've got an entire culture that's shaping and influencing kids, but like, things are not good.
No. And to your point, you know, we believe we're doing the best job we can. That's actually a lot of the work that I do with my clients. You know, I will ask them, and they don't understand why I'm asking them, how old are your parents? How old are your parents? What were mom and dad doing for a living? Who was home? Who was not home? What was your relationship like? Who were your adults? Were they grandparents? My wife is in human resources, and we're talking about FMLA. And employers, I guess, have, and I'm not talking law, I'm standing in my lane, but she and I were having a conversation actually earlier today about, can you have quote unquote parents if you have to take care of somebody that's actually a grandparent? There's a Latin term regarding, these are my, and the employer can say, yes, you can do this. We will, honor these people as if they're your parents. You can take your 12 weeks off unpaid, what have you. We'll still hold your job. We will treat it as if this is your biological mother. So, I'll ask, were you raised by boomers? Without the label, without the weight, but, and then what were they like, sociologically, as well as what was it like for you and your peers? Because we're trained as therapists in what we call cultural competency. And if you work with a client, you better know a little bit about what that client's culture is, at least to be respectful, compassionate, give them the honor that they deserve for showing up to therapy, which is hard enough. So when I hear something about, this violence in Gilbert, it's hard because it's now. It's hard to picture the idea that these parents are doing the best they can. But in reality, unless they're cases of abuse and we're talking reports and things going on like that, I tend to believe that people are doing the best they can with their life experience and what's happened, how they perceive the world around them. Even the kids in Gilbert that are going out and bullying and killing people. I believe that they just don't have the tools to manage.
This is Billie Tarascio, owner of Win Without Law School and Modern Law. Win Without Law School is a program that operates nationally and helps people who are representing themselves or who just need more help. If you are in a family court case and you're feeling confused, you need direction, you need help figuring out questions to procedural or strategic issues, Win Without Law School can help. At Win Without Law School, you've got two experienced attorneys, me and my partner, Julie LeBenz, who can guide you through the court process and help you troubleshoot your case. You've got access to courses, planners, checklists, and live Q&A. Our live Q&A is where you can get help from us and your community. We also have a closed Facebook group just for members where you all can share your experience, share your pleadings, get advice, and mentorship. Join us today at winwithoutlawschool.com. That's winwithoutlawschool.com.
For parents that are, this is the culture we're in, where these phones they've been designed to be incredibly addictive. They're in everyone's hands. You can't not have them. You can't. So I've got kids I've got basically two sets of kids because there's a big break in between them. And two of them are young adults, a senior in high school and a freshman in college. And then two of them are 12 and 9, and they haven't gotten smartphones. I get a do-over a little bit. I get to try it a little differently. But I was at my 12-year-old's football game, and he went to football, and then the team went out to Chick-fil-A afterwards, and the team sat around a table, and everybody's on their phones. And if you're gonna not give your kid a phone, they're now the outcast. So how are parents supposed to be dealing with this?
That's a hard one because fitting in is so important at that age.
So important.
Even the nonverbal peer pressure.
Yes.
Your son did not have to be made fun of.
Right. Exactly. For him to feel excluded. Absolutely. Absolutely. And he came over and he's like, "Can I have your phone?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do on it?" And he's like, "Well, you need to download this game." And then the food showed up and I was saved. But like, this is a hard thing. Like, I don't want to put this device in his hand to interrupt him all day, every day, and steal his attention and create addiction. And at the same time, I don't want to create a kid that, feels different and is excluded and is not part of what everybody else is doing. And it feels a little impossible.
It is. At my kids are 22 and 24. We went through the phone thing. I'm like, first of all, the expense. Second of all, can they get addicted to it? Yeah. It's dopamine. It's,
right. It's
and
designed
we
that
locked
way.
them down. And I locked it down. You're not getting notifications. Even if my clients call in the middle of the night, there are 5 sets of people that can call me at 2 a.m. There's my dad in the case of, and these are all in the case of an emergency. My dad, my wife, if she's on a business trip, and my 2 kids. And my client phone number for crises will call me up. Otherwise, nope, not at all. We have to take ownership of our own devices. And I'm not just talking about the phones. I'm talking about the generic word devices. Well, people have said, well, I'm sorry I didn't text you back right away. I never expect to text back right away because it's an asynchronous, not at the same time type of communication, like email. But your Gen Zs and younger millennials, that's real time. That's real time. I've got a red receipt. Why are you not writing me back? There goes the anxiety. There's more anxiety relationships. Yeah, the problems these things cause in marriage.
There's a lot of pressure on marriages. There's a lot of pressure on teens. It's not an easy time to operate.
But I think the more and more we have those conversations and say, here's what my needs are. I don't like it when you X, Y, Z. I'm uncomfortable. What do you mean I don't like it? I'm uncomfortable. I find it upsetting. My ex did that thing, and it's really bringing a lot back to me right now. We call those kind of trigger some events. Years ago, when my kids were younger, 13 and 15, one of them is a writer, and the younger, and they said to me, when you check my search history, keep in mind, you're going to find these topics. Were they family friendly at 13 years old? No. This is a writer. Looking up things with weapons.
Interesting.
But open and honest communication.
Sure. And you get to talk about why.
Yeah. Tell me about your story. What are you writing?
Right. So healthy communication is probably the best we can do. It's probably the best weapon we have against all this stuff. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I see it more as a shield than a weapon. It's protective.
I like that.
We want to keep our kids safe. Everybody wants to keep their kids safe, especially with what's going on outside of our walls. But I would rather have strong kids, strong adults, than safe kids.
Right. We got to raise adults.
I mean, we say adulting is hard. I don't because I'm Gen X. But we say adulting is hard. Right? It is hard.
I love it. I think it's great. I wouldn't go back to being a kid. That's hard.
No.
Having other people control your destiny, that's worse.
Yeah. Having other people control your destiny is why I think therapy for teens is so important. I do consultations. Most of us do because we're all internet-based now. And the first thing I do is I say, Mom, son's name, child's name. It's usually mom that shows up. Your kid is the boss. You're paying. Okay. Your insurance is paying. I will let you know if they give me any of the 3 mandated reporter statements. 2 out of 3. I'm not going to tell you if they accuse you of child abuse or neglect. Right? You don't get to know that.
You don't get a heads up on that.
You'll find out, but not by me. But I'm going to notify you, and otherwise, it's us. Your kid wants to tell me about somebody getting in his face after a baseball game, we're going to talk about it. If dad is a bully in the home, and it's not abusive, say to me the things you want to yell at dad, because you're probably not going to get away with it at home. Yeah, raise your voice, yell at me. use curse words if you want to. It's not going to
So
affect
you
me.
work with teens whose parents are going through divorce.
Have gone through
Sure.
custody agreements. Hey, we want to move out of state, so we got to go back to the judge to XYZ. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, what are some things that parents should know about what teens are going through under those circumstances?
In the case, let's say parental alienation, I know that's a big one I see. Your child is going to be impacted by the fact that they are 50% of the other person. So when you talk crap, can I
Yeah.
curse here, Billy? Okay.
Speak freely.
When you talk shit about your ex or your child's other parent, you're talking trash about your child. Your child has believed, possibly depending on when the separation and divorce happened, your child saw you guys in love at one point, maybe, and now you hate the other person, so you must hate me. Yeah, I want to go live with my other parent. We cannot talk ill in front of our kids, or even if we're in the same home as our kids, about their other parent.
This is not exclusive to divorced couples.
Not at all.
Talking smack about the other parent in the house is not okay either.
No. But what is okay is working through a disagreement in front of your kids. Because I also see so many young couples who are like, we see all these people in our lives who have their shit together for 40, 50 years. How did they get there?
Interesting.
Oh, they went through some of the same stuff,
Sure.
but you never saw it.
Yeah.
So you think you're a failure. You're not a failure. It goes back to, based on your own experience, you're doing your best.
Derek, thank you so much for coming on the show. How do people get a hold of you? And do you work with people all over the country?
So, just like you, I'm licensed only in the states that I serve. I don't imagine you can practice law in a New York venue.
Nope.
So I'm a therapist in both New York and Pennsylvania, 100% telehealth, just by video. You can find my website at www.sageintime.com. My phone number is there, my email is there. You can request a consultation, sign up for an evaluation. I do take insurance. Several insurances are listed on the site, I think. And that's it. Pretty easy to find.
Thank you so much, Derek. I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Have a
Billy.
wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Modern Arizona podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, make sure to download it, like it, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you know someone who would be a good guest or you would like to be on the Modern Arizona podcast, make sure to give us an email or reach out to us at mymodernlaw.com.